It was a quiet evening at the airport. Passengers hurried through the terminal, some on vacation, others heading home. Flight 407 was ready to take off at 8:45 p.m. People boarded the plane, thinking it was just another normal flight. No one knew that this journey would soon become one of the greatest mysteries in history. Captain Jonathan Gray was in charge of the flight. He was an experienced pilot who had flown this route many times before. Along with his co-pilot, Emily Dyer, they expected an easy trip. The passengers settled into their seats, relaxed, and the plane took off into the dark night sky. For the first hour, everything was fine. Some people slept, others watched movies, and a few looked out the windows at the stars. The plane flew smoothly, and it felt like just another regular flight. Then, something strange happened. The cabin lights flickered for a second, but most passengers didn't notice. A soft, low hum started. At first, it was so quiet that no one paid attention to it. But the sound grew louder, a deep vibration that seemed to come from everywhere at once. In the cockpit, Captain Gray noticed something odd on the radar. There was a storm ahead, but it didn't look normal. The clouds were thick and swirling in strange patterns. "Do you see this?" Gray asked, looking at the screen. Emily nodded, frowning. "It's not like any storm I've seen before. Should we change course?" Gray hesitated. It wasn't uncommon to see bad weather on this route, and they were on a tight schedule. "Let's watch it for now. We'll avoid it if it gets worse." As the plane moved closer, the storm grew larger. Dark clouds began to gather outside the windows. Lightning flashed in the distance, lighting up the sky for brief moments. Some passengers started to feel uneasy, but most stayed calm. Then, without warning, the plane shook violently. A loud bang echoed through the cabin, and the lights went out for a moment before flickering back on. Fear spread through the passengers as the plane bounced in the air. Captain Gray grabbed the controls. Alarms were going off in the cockpit, and the plane wasn't responding like it should. The storm seemed to be pulling them in, as if something in the clouds was dragging them deeper. "Ladies and gentlemen," Gray said over the intercom, trying to sound calm, "we're experiencing some turbulence. Please stay in your seats and fasten your seatbelts." But things were getting worse. The instruments stopped working properly. The compass spun in circles, and the autopilot failed. Gray and Emily had lost control. Suddenly, the radar went black. No more storm, no clouds, no land, just emptiness. It was as if the plane had flown into nothingness. The turbulence became stronger. The plane dropped suddenly, falling fast. People screamed, clutching their seats as oxygen masks dropped down. The flight attendants rushed to help, but they were also afraid. Captain Gray and Emily struggled to control the plane, but nothing worked. Then, through the dark clouds, they saw something impossible. A glowing light appeared ahead of them. It was bright, hovering in the distance, far too still to be a star or lightning. The light didn't move, and it seemed like the plane was being pulled toward it. "What is that?" Emily whispered, staring at the light. "I don't know," Gray answered, his eyes fixed on it. The plane seemed to be heading straight for it, as if the light was drawing them in. The closer they got, the calmer the storm became. The turbulence stopped, and the plane flew smoothly again. But the light filled the sky, growing larger and brighter with every second. Then, just as the plane reached the light, everything went silent. The plane hung in the air, as if frozen. The engines roared, but the plane wasn't moving anymore. It was stuck, caught in the grip of the glowing light. For a moment, everything was completely still. Then, with a sudden flash, the light swallowed the plane whole. Flight 407 vanished that night. No trace of the plane or its passengers was ever found. Search teams looked for weeks, but there was nothing. No wreckage, no signals, nothing at all. Some say the plane entered another world, lost forever in the dark. Others believe it was taken by something we can't explain. Whatever the truth, Flight 407 became one of the greatest mysteries of all time, a plane that disappeared into the night and never came back. And on stormy nights, if you listen carefully, you might still hear the distant sound of its engines, lost somewhere in the sky, flying through the darkness.